And I'm delighted now to have Niall Olver coming on stage. I'm also delighted that you walked up as soon as the panel ended. You didn't wait. Niall needs no introduction, so I'm not going to give you one. But I think everyone in the room knows you as from your time at ExecuJet, which you sold to Lux Aviation in the front row. Why did you launch Axis Aviation?
Is this working? Okay. Well, Axis Aviation really wasn't my intention. It wasn't my plan to get back into aircraft management, and I don't really view it as we have. It's really a technology-based play. But essentially, the reason being, I got involved with a company called Axis Simulation. We build level D sims, moving in very much a technology base with VR, MR, AI, and I started to realize that the aviation business in terms of aircraft management operations is direly in need of an overhaul. I figured, well, technology is a way to do it. Turns out, not so easy.
So the simulation company was you coming in, trying to take on a market dominated by a few companies?
Well, essentially, I got into it trying to help a friend, but it's come down to that, in fact. We were building level D, mainly ATRs, and of course, only so many ATRs delivered every year, so it's quite difficult making a business out of that. And of course, the market's been fairly tied up in the duopoly of flight safety and CAE for a long time now, based on essentially data. So in recent times, we formed our own business doing data collection, and we're building our own data packages. So now we're building citations, we build Challenger 3500s, Challenger 650, and this year we're starting the 6500, 7500. So that's really the technology-based angle that got me going.
So you had the technology from that, and you went, I can apply this to aircraft management. Or what was the problem you're trying to solve?
The problem I'm trying to address, to be honest, I think we're all honest about it, the business does suffer from a lack of transparency. And of course, that's oftentimes played against the owner's interests. The other side of it, it's very, very difficult, as we all know, making money in aircraft management. It's so manual, the process is so manual. So to my mind, the opportunities therein are essentially internal efficiencies. And on the one hand, on the other hand, if you build a data layer or a data warehouse where you can vertically integrate best practices, accounting systems and dispatch systems and the like, it also gives you the data in order to do a far more transparent front end for the owners.
But the lack of transparency, is that big? Lots of people talk about lack of transparency, but some of that's actually just the complexity, isn't it?
Correct, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an opportunity for some, okay, to take advantage of, but it's very, very difficult to be transparent. You know, all the moving parts you've got in any given aircraft operation, any one of them is simple, but put together into an entire trip or entire year of management of an aircraft, it's very, very difficult to be transparent. And as I say, that one hand, it's very disheartening for companies that are trying to do the right thing, and it's an opportunity for those that don't do the right thing.
So you didn't want to be an aircraft manager?
No.
But you've ended up being one?
Yes. Well, I was for many years, of course.
Of course, yeah. And I remember you saying you'd never do it again.
Exactly. And here we are. It is compelling.
But did you look at selling the technology? You know, you could have created technology and then sold it to the operators we had on the panel beforehand. Yeah,
well, therein lies the problem, I think. You know, if you look at, and that was the idea initially, is well, you know, if you build the technology knowing the business, you can sell it. But the problem is our industry is 25,000 aircraft large. It's very difficult making money out of a SaaS model in that industry. There are players that can do it. If you look at 4Flight, for example, they have a captive product which they deliver. So that makes it very easy for them to do it, and they can add a lot of value with Jefferson, okay? The other company that I'm quite impressed with is Portside, because they're not trying to own the customer, they're trying to do a platform-type play. So I think that is a fair chance of working. But the rest of these products tend to be very, very, very standalone or very vertical, and all competing for the customer's attention. So it's very difficult to make money with the model. So I decided to try and then do it, practically speaking, with aircraft management. But honestly, it's a path to go, I'll be quite frank. But I do think we'll get there in time to come. So.
And do you want to just take us quickly through the company at the moment on the aircraft management side?
Yeah, we started, well, another company we inherited in Switzerland, in fact. We evolved it a bit. It's still fairly much in its infancy and startup phase, but we have an AOC in Austria and San Marino and South Africa. We have 45 aircraft now. So I'd like to get it to about 75 aircraft and to get the technology to work. And if the technology works as we like to believe in terms of internal efficiencies and the ability to give a lot more transparency and family office type functions on true aircraft values, true utilization patterns to the owners, then I think we'd like to take it to the US and scale it there.
Okay, so you didn't want to be an aircraft manager. Now you're planning to be one of the biggest.
Well, you've got to do it if you're going to do it. So this is the thing, So, but there's still a long path ahead. I wouldn't be arrogant about it. We all know how hard it is to make money in this game.
And the technology, half of it is about improving the owner experience.
Yes.
And the other half is efficiency.
Internal efficiencies, yes. Yeah.
So you think, and the efficiencies really means cheaper.
It means it's cheaper, but what it really does mean is means better quality information, because that's the problem. You can't really always give the owner the transparency he wants because you don't really have the granular data. So if you have better quality information, I think it makes you more efficient, not just the cost saving, which is, of course, one of the benefits. Yeah.
And how much, as a percentage, do you think you can save on traditional management?
I think that the actual cost saving at the end is not that great. I wouldn't say I've tried to work out a percentage, but I've come to realize, saving a few financial people or a few dispatchers and the like doesn't really make the game. What makes the game is having the information to hand, real time, accurate, and be able to then use that further.
And when we go back to the complexity, if you fly a passenger from, I don't know, Switzerland to Cape Town tonight, you're not going to get many of those overflight fees for, 6 weeks, if you're lucky.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But again, if you look at collecting over time, you're collecting data, and not just the data on that route, on that aircraft. You can actually extrapolate a lot, especially with AI tools today. So you can do a lot in terms of extrapolation to get very accurate cost estimates. And even if you take risk on that in time, you can take it because you have empirical data. Whereas today you can't do it. You're right, and you're always lagging, and you have to lag.
Which I think is part of the transparency issue, where a customer is like, "How much my jet cost me?"
Transparent, yeah, but you are being transparent. You just can't give them the data.
Yeah. But I think some of the issues that an owner has is they go, "Hang on, what's my bill from January?"
Yeah.
And then you don't know, do you?
You don't know. Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah. And of course, then he thinks you're not being honest, or the case may be. So I think it's the only way to, quite frankly, change the name of this game, because we've been doing it 20, 30 years. I've been involved in the business 30 years now, almost. And quite frankly, the people change, but nothing really changes in the business model. And something should change.
The business cards change.
The business cards change. Yes. Yeah.
Which part of the business are you most excited about?
To be honest with you, at the moment, I think this is intriguing to see what we can do in the aircraft management business, but I'm really finding intriguing as the training space, because it's been a duopoly for so long. And now in our case, we're very small, but we're able to build sims, level D sims, for the first time. Someone's able to do that alongside CAE and flight safety. So I think that opens a lot of opportunities in that segment in itself, because as you know, it's not a cheap thing, training on these aircraft, and it can be a lot cheaper. Not just for that reason, in terms of being a duopoly, but also technologies. So looking at VR, mixed reality, we're doing a lot of work with that now. Looking at AI tools, and the integration of this means the training market's going to change quite dramatically in time to come. And I think we can play a meaningful role in that.
MBAA, CAE had an amazing virtual reality headset that I tried. And are you working on?
Yeah, we're doing similar things. It's true, yes. VR, it's VR and mixed reality as well. The thing is, the syllabus today is essentially time-based, and it really should be competency-based. People speak about competency-based training, but to what degree is it really being applied? And I think you're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years that technologies are going to make that infinitely more available. The question is how long it takes to get the regulator to follow.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Is that the biggest challenge?
Yeah, it's regulation, yeah.
And do you see it speeding up?
I think on the training side, I think it can be faster, because they look to, EASA and FAA look to industry bodies, which come from two players, okay? And hence the training syllabus as you see today. You don't need to go and spend a week doing a recurrency just to do an OPC or an LPC, but you have to, because that's what the two players say you will do. The regulator does allow you to go and put forward a different way of doing it. So I think there's more chance of changing those sort of things faster than we have, for example, on the aircraft operations side. That's a lot harder to change regulation.
Going back to the last panel, if regulation is the biggest issue for training, if we look at the last panel, and with all respect to George in particular, you've got a lot of people in the industry, or Darren, who come into the industry because they love aircraft. Do you think that aircraft management companies, very few come into the industry because they want to implement new technology?
Yeah, I think people come into the industry mostly because they have a passion for it, and not because they have a USP, to be honest, in aircraft management. The USP usually is having some core relationships in a market or in a certain segment, and that really is what drives the business's initial start, and either succeeds or doesn't succeed. But it comes from that. It doesn't come from from a technology-based USP, typically, not in aircraft management.
But do you think that means that they're slower to adapt to new technology?
I think it's unavailable in a holistic sense. I think that's maybe why I think people would adopt it if it was available in a way you could do it. But it's very difficult to change your existing systems into one. You can't from one day to the next say I'm changing all this plethora of 4, 5, or 7 different of software packages I got into one universal, if there was one universal system. The complexity of change is quite significant. So there's quite a barrier to that. It'd probably be easier for new entrants to come in with a lower cost base with technology if it was available.
Okay, you did the largest ever sale of an international operator.
Really? Okay.
I think so.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Probably did, yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to challenge it. I'm going to take that. If anyone wants to argue it, we can go through it. But Niall will have to tell you the price. And now you're buying. You've bought your first AOC in South Africa.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not your first one, but you've bought. How are you deciding it? How are you going to grow? Is it a mixture of organic and acquisition?
I'd rather do it organically, but it's very painful, very slow. So I think we're going to have to do it through acquisition. But as I said, I don't necessarily want to grow it that big. Maybe 75 aircraft in Europe, Middle East, Africa, just to try and really get the technology to work, and then see from there. The aspiration is not to grow the problem, because we are right now still very manual, and if we had to grow now, we're just growing the manual problem. And I think 75 aircraft is enough to make it viable.
And where are you looking to? Where would you look to buy? Where are you looking at the moment?
I haven't been looking. It's really been fairly opportunistic. I would imagine we need to do something in the Middle East space, one way or the other. But I don't see an obvious target per se.
So you've told us how big you're going to become. When? What's the deadline?
Well, 75. We should achieve that in 2 years, I'd say. So yeah, I'd say 2 years.
It's an awful lot for someone who doesn't like aircraft management.
I like it. I just don't enjoy the process.
Do we have any questions in the audience? We've got a brand new gimmick, which I'm desperate to throw to someone. Brilliant. Mark, it's coming to you. You need to talk into the black bit, and it should work.
Hello?
Oh, there you go.
So if coming to the Middle East, what do you find, which countries do you find attractive then in the Middle East? Is it Saudi Arabia or is it the UAE?
Interesting.
Or some other country?
Yeah, I haven't been looking to buy anything in the Middle East yet, but if you look at the Middle East, of course, the UAE is the obvious place to go. It's a bit more done for years. But Saudi is very interesting with the way the country is changing in terms of demographic and politically. The grey market charter is going to come under a lot more pressure. So I think Saudi becomes very interesting. Not easy, as you all know, but it's interesting.
Any more questions? Mark, you've got the ball to throw to the back. There's quite a lot of pressure now, to be honest, once you've thrown it once. We've got a panel on this at the end. Every year we talk about consolidation happening, and obviously the big consolidation was ExecJet Lux in Europe. That then led to, you've launched an operator off the back of it. I think maybe 2 or 3 former ExecJet operators, people who were at ExecJet have launched operators. Does consolidation work? Will the industry ever consolidate?
Consolidation does work, but it's a cultural thing, I think. Just buying a company and plugging it on is not that easy. So I think the principle still remains true, but I don't see that many players in the industry today that are willing to consolidate, that want to be the consolidator.
How many operators? Do you think in 10 years' time we'll have more or fewer operators?
I think you have more. I think technology is going to allow people to operate more efficiently on a smaller scale. I don't think it's good for the industry per se, having more smaller operators, but I think you will see that, yeah.
And so what's your vision? What do you think, what will the industry look like in 5 years? You can cover both simulation and management.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, the industry is rather slow changing. I don't think in 5 years it's going to change that dramatically. It hasn't changed that dramatically in the last 20 years. But I think technology it has to and will make a difference across the industry. You see it with say, tools like ForeFlight. I mean, it's been quite massive what ForeFlight's done to that segment in the last 10 years. So I think technology is the only real difference that we can bring to bear. I mean, companies, people are people, owners are owners, aircraft are aircraft.
You've been doing aircraft management for almost 20 years. In that time, have management fees gone up?
No, I wouldn't say so. Not materially.
Any thoughts that could change?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Yeah, quite complex. Why hasn't it changed to date? Sam?
Okay, why hasn't it changed?
Well, because people don't see the value add, to be honest. They don't see what further value you're adding for which you need to charge more. It's unfair because the cost base of the industry definitely is what it is. But somehow as an industry we don't manage to communicate to owners that the value is there to pay more. Hence my thinking to actually add more family office type functionality to the pure aircraft management. But for that you need data, and for that you need information that you can translate into something usable.
And so the idea is that you can log in, and if I'm a family office manager, in between my golf and my going to the tennis, I can log in and see exactly what the costs are that day.
Yeah. Well, very simply, if you have a data layer where you actually, as I say, bring all that information to bear, you can do all that real time for sure. Yes, absolutely.
Great. Any more questions? We have the rugby ball, or we have safer mics. I know Mark's ready to do a long pass at the back, aren't you? Forward. Now, thank you very much. That was great. Thank you.
Pleasure.